Yeah, right after. Started building. Good morning and welcome to the pre-solicitation conference for the RFP 24-3400-1 for the city SCADA upgrades project. I am Cheryl Hughes, the grants, contracts and procurement manager. And with me helping with this conference is Garrett Fitzgerald. He is the contracts and grants specialist. And then each staff member will kind of introduce themselves and let you know what their role is in this project or what facility they're over. We do have another staff member that will be here in a few minutes from the wastewater treatment plant. So any questions directed, with that, he can answer. Basically, I will just kick this off that the RFP deadline is, when did I make that for? February 6th at 2 p.m. We are very stringent on that. We accept no proposals after that 2 p.m. We have a bid clock that we keep. So as soon as it says it's 2 o'clock, it gets shut down. So just make sure all proposals are submitted before 2 p.m. on that day. Questions deadline is January 30th at 2 p.m. Any questions that are emailed to me after that time will not be answered. So make sure you get any questions in prior to that 2 p.m. deadline on January 30th. And when questions are received, we put together a questions and answers document. And then it gets posted on the solicitation page so that everybody has benefit of seeing the question and what the answer is, which is why we said about a week before the actual RFP deadline. That gives us a chance to put that document together. And let's see, what else would be, again, this is a mandatory conference. So obviously those on Zoom and in person are the ones that can submit a proposal for this. Anyone else that did not attend will not be able to submit. Because it's such an important project, it was felt that it was necessary that those that are gonna submit attend this conference. And if there's, again, make sure that if there are any questions, they are followed according to the RFP, which is to email them to me. You can't call any of the staff members or ask them any questions. They'll tell you they can't answer. So it all has to be directed in writing to me. So, and we don't do that to be difficult. We do that just to make sure that everybody is being given the same information. That's why there's no verbal communication. So that is my introduction. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But right now I'll go ahead and start with Eric, who will introduce himself and what his role is. And then we will go over to Adam.
I'm Eric Bush, one of the construction managers for the city. I'm working on 2 of the lift station upgrades that are in this RFP, the City Beach and the Exxon lift station. And I handle those projects throughout the city. So in future years, I'll be working on some different ones. But generally, utility, water, and wastewater upgrades is a lot of what I'm.
Thanks, Eric.
I'm Adam Skoog. I've been working on this RFP for a bit here, and would be the primary project manager currently for this RFP.
My name is Rich Boudet. I'm the water treatment supervisor. So I would be working on all the water treatment SCADA stuff.
Robert Gett, utilities. So we maintain all the lift stations throughout the city. And that will be the trades on them.
Sorry, what was your last name, Rob?
Berget, B-E-R-G-E-T.
Thank you.
And before we get started, let's make sure that everybody in the participants can hear us. So Adam.
Yes.
Sure you.
Yep.
Dean.
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes, sir.
and Nelson
Yes.
and Paul.
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. All right, so we are set to go. If any of you have any questions during this, just feel free to raise your hand. I'll get a notification over here that you guys have a question and we'll answer the questions to the best of our ability.
So does anybody have any questions before, specific that you wanted to ask now, or just wait a little bit? Just gonna wait a little bit. Also, I'll add that at the end of this conference, those that are here in person are able to go on a non-mandatory tour. So you don't have to, but if you find it beneficial, then you can go on that tour. You would transport yourself and the staff would meet at the different locations. So. And with that, I hand it over to you, Adam.
All right, perfect.
Did you want that?
So with the SCADA project, the main purpose of the project, as I'm sure many of you have read it, so I'm not gonna go through it exactly. But we're looking to get the water treatment, wastewater and lift stations all upgraded to a modern SCADA solution. So we are currently using Rockwell automation. We're open to different types of automation software depending on what's available. We do have listed out here some of the different requirements depending on which one we go with. Let's see if this is in order.
It should be yes.
Three, no,
It's two-sided.
all right, so. Sorry, I skipped ahead there a little bit because I was messed up on the papers here. So the one thing, if we go to C, B, this is actually pretty critical for all the plants here. All locations are in use. We do have the ability to have short outages. I think with water treatment, we probably have the most flexibility as long as we have heads up. But all the locations are in use, and so any outage windows do have to be communicated and planned ahead of time. The SCADA upgrades, if we either go physical or cloud, those are the two big differences I would say throughout the whole project that are going to impact everything throughout this project. Obviously, if we go physical servers, then all that's going to have to be communicated and planned out with the IT department, which will be, the IT department will be setting up physical servers, getting the networking done, setting up virtual machines, but then it'll be the responsibility of the integrator to take and install software, make sure it's all communicating back to the plant, and ensure all the different aspects of that are set up and functioning properly, as well as the different screens and needs of the different plants. If it's cloud, it's going to be almost solely the responsibility of the SCADA integrator, with the exception of getting communication inwards or outbound. Then you work with the IT department to make sure that, obviously firewall rules are opened up, networking is working, and any communication that needs to happen internally to the cloud. Any questions on that?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Cost and pricing. Cloud versus physical.
Mhm.
See, it's fairly common these days. Cloud stuff, subscription
Yep.
process versus a physical like.
Yep.
Right. How do you compare those dollars? Is there a lifespan window that you're gonna look at for so many years of subscription?
I think it's going to fall into a couple different categories. Obviously, there's going to be functionality that's going to come into that. So if if it adds value to the city, then I think there's gonna be that factored in as well. Even with the physical stuff, we have physical costs, we have maintenance, we have licensing agreements that are still gonna have to be maintained, and then, so the cost is gonna be balanced out one way or the other. So I don't think there's a huge concern with the two costs. They're both gonna be what they are. Mostly what functionally fits the city best and what's also gonna be supported. The main concern with going with cloud obviously would be security. I mean, that's also a concern with on-prem. But cloud, we have to have some evidence that there's ways to continue running if the cloud goes down. What is a backup plan, contingency plan, things like that. With this, we want to try to have some sort of project management life cycle, whether it's what we list in the RFP or similar. We just need to have a project management lifestyle that does exist. It can't just be, flying by the seat of our pants. We want to see this project go smoothly, for everybody involved. Hardware, software programming is, so the programming existence, section C, yeah. So, service including the procurement, installation, and all the configuration of all the server, software, all the SCADA software, needs to be completed, replace existing PLCs. We also want to see at least one extra PLC per location, that is going to be different. So for failover instances, specifically water treatment, wastewater treatment plant, Sand Creek, as well as the collection station are the primary ones we want to see set up. I understand that PLCs are typically programmed for their specific function, but we want to have one on hand. And if we have to have that reprogrammed at the time, that would be, we deal with that at that time, but we want to have at least one on hand, whether it's kind of programmed with some generic stuff, specifically for the collection station that should be able to be set up for drop-in replacement. For the other locations, probably not so much. While you guys are going through the SCADA configurations, we want to get documentation. So any operation and maintenance manuals, system schematics, any of the wiring, electronics, all that stuff. We want to try to get some documentation so that way if we have failures, we can get back up and functional quickly. Training is going to be also pretty critical, depending on what SCADA system we go with. Please, include in your in your proposal, any training, that needs to be done so we can get people properly working on the new systems, whether it's, going with the existing rock wall automation or something different, as long as we have something going forward. And then with all the warranties, of the products, include that, any product warranties, labor warranties, durations of those warranties, etc. We are looking for this as well with a long-term support relationship with any of the respondents here. We're not looking to have somebody just come in, drop in a system and walk away. We are hoping to keep a long-term relationship with whoever does this. Obviously, you guys are going to be intimately familiar with the system when you're done. So any issues, we would like to be able to call you guys and have you guys help us with issues futuristically. And then there's the last portion of this, which is, utilize and review the information that's provided. So that way you can most accurately give us a quote that is needed. So into the scope of services here. Does anybody have questions before we get into the scope? Yeah.
You initially mentioned, the city's open to different software, automation software.
Yes.
SCADA packages here. What about the PLC logic program software?
That would be something I don't quite have an answer to on that. I want to make sure that whatever we do pick, that is a standard, it's not something that's proprietary. So the actual programming for the PLCs, I think is going to be something we're going to have to rely upon the SCADA integrators to give us that information. So I don't think any of us here know too much about the programming of the actual PLCs.
Thank you.
We're gonna take a quick pause here and we're gonna have Devin introduce himself.
Devin, I'm the supervisor for the wastewater treatment plant.
Thanks, Devin.
Lines, reading rigs.
Okay.
Flag lines.
As part of that, I mean, we already do have all the water treatment plant, PLCs. They are all already installed and they're new enough that we're not planning on replacing any of those. So those are already programmed. I don't know if we'd stick with kind of the same programming language as what's at the water treatment plant. Or if that falls within what we're talking about there. All right. So we'll start with wastewater, which Devin is here from our wastewater treatment plant. That facility, we do have a plan to get that facility replaced hopefully within the next couple of years. We are moving forward with talks on that as well as, I think, RFPs, hopefully getting that done. Currently, they do have a single workstation there running with Rock Automation. It communicates to all the different PLCs on site. It is currently air gapped. We do have dark fiber between the locations. So if we're going from, let's say, wastewater to lake water, if we went physical servers, we do have a path to be able to make that communication work fairly easily. There are the different cabinets there. I did list out inside of the water treatment plant enclosures as best I could, the different communication routes. So we're going to keep the current communication routes. We're not doing any network upgrades with this RFP. Any network upgrades will be done either in a separate RFP or by internal staff here. So the whole point of this RFP is just simply to get everything upgraded and modernized and communicating to a SCADA software. Yeah, Tom?
It does say in the note that you want to replace the 1100s. You have a couple 1100s. Is that to be expected or?
Yeah, so any sort of PLC at the wastewater treatment plant that is out of date or in need of replacement, we want to get those replaced. So I know that when we were talking with a electrical engineer, he was saying the 1100s need to be replaced. He also was saying that the 1400s were still good. I've talked with other electrical engineers and they were saying that, you know, the 1400 should also be replaced because they're coming to end of life. So we're kind of relying upon input from respondents here to determine what they think is the best course of action for long-term support. So if the 1400s are end of life, I think if we go down to the projects for the water treatment plant, we want to update all PLCs to latest stable firmware configuration and configure with chosen modern SCADA software solution. So, and then also upgrading all the modern SCADA software with all the different devices. So any of the obsolete PLCs on 5, so I3i and the 5, we want to get those replaced. So if the 1400s are obsolete, if 1100s are obsolete, want to get those replaced. It depends on the input that you guys have on that. So
I think it's series.
yeah, because I've heard from a couple different people that they were saying that 1400s were obsolete, and then other people were saying they're still good. So
They were close to end.
yeah,
I mean, depending on the time frame of the project, it could be obsolete by the time the project is over with, so.
I would.
Is there any way to get a definitive request from the city on that, whether they want to, so we can kind of even it across the board if somebody wants to do it or doesn't want to do it? You know?
I would, from my perspective, I'd plan on replacing all PLCs that are end of life or close to end of life. Because we want to have we don't want to be 2 years down the road replacing PLCs again. And we want to make sure that they are fully supported for long term.
Okay.
So if you want to, if you're planning on supporting out of end of life products, then that, I would just say, plan on replacing everything at the wastewater treatment plant to get it fully modern, because no matter what, even if we get the wastewater treatment plant replaced, whatever is there, we're still probably gonna be reusing that actual SCADA equipment. Because that I think is in the plans for the next 5 years, so.
So you're going to a question I had, Mark. The 5-year
Mhm.
facility, the one, what's the relationship between it and what is being proposed? Are they two independent things?
Independent, yeah.
Stuff that's being put in now, for example, is not gonna be migrated over to the new facility. It's gonna,
The facility is gonna be in the same spot, right? So we're just gonna be taking in, as they replace physical stuff, replace physical buildings, whatever the actual plan is with that. At this time, I'm assuming that the SCADA equipment is gonna be still in use, so the PLCs, there'll be some reprogramming probably at that time, but that's gonna be a whole different project, and when that happens, we'll figure that out.
so there is some likelihood that a control tower, PLC and everything will be repurposed for the new facility.
Yes,
So it's not definitive, but there's some likelihood that.
yeah, and that's why we're going through the upgrading things now, because we're under the assumption we're gonna continue to use this. And we wanna make sure it's modern and long-term support on that.
And I can tell you the intent is to repurpose it. Not just start over. That is right now the intent.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any idea at this point, I know. The new facility, you want that one to live for 10 years, 20 years? What's the? Yeah, I get the date of the vintage.
I guess maybe 20.
I think it's 20.
20,
Yeah.
thank you, because
I do have a hand raised here.
Go ahead.
Ian?
This is Jason, with CES. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that, as the Rockwell distributor, if there's questions about, life cycle, as far as the hardware goes, we can absolutely work with you guys to understand where that lies. Currently, the Micrologix 1400 is active mature, meaning that it is not obsolete or discontinued. The 1100 is discontinued. But any of the other hardware that you guys are working through, certainly reach out to us. We do want to help make sure that the city gets current, existing, and future products. So
the,
Thank you, Jason.
sorry, on Rockwell's website, you go to the 14th place. It's not another 14. It's a different.
It's an 800 series.
Okay. The Micrologix 800s,
Yeah.
okay.
Which is a different software also from the 1100 and the 1400s.
Different PLC programming.
Yeah.
Did we have any other questions from the online attendees? I don't see any hands raised. So we're gonna go forward to the Lake Water Treatment Plant. The Lake Water Plant is currently fairly modern with all of its equipment. We do have some older servers and SCADA software. That's one of the primary purposes of this is to get those replaced. We have physical servers, and XP, HMI, as well as a couple of Windows 7 workstations there as well running that plant. So we want to get everything upgraded with modern SCADA software, and interconnect everything. If we go physical servers are actually gonna go at the Lake Water Treatment Plant. And communication from all the lift stations, wastewater treatment plants, and other reservoirs, et cetera. Everything will communicate back to either Lake Water Plant or to the cloud solution that is chosen. I would say that this would obviously be your first step if you're going to be replacing stuff at any locations, because you're going to have communication set up beforehand. Obviously, whatever however you guys want to take and handle that with your projects, if you see a better way to do that, then obviously let us know on that. There's several buildings here. We have raw water, which is the one that's connected to wireless to building 20. That currently doesn't have an HMI. We want to get HMI in that building. Building 20 is connected by fiber to building 30. And then 30 is kind of like the main building of the water treatment plant. That's where everything is housed. And then 40, and then we don't have 50 or 60 listed in here because they don't really have SCADA equipment. They do have fiber that goes through to there to building 70. But mostly we'd be looking at building 40 and building 70 for upgrades. 50 and 60 really remaining untouched. So the main purpose there, replacing XP systems, replacing Factory Talk, SCADA software, upgrading to modern SCADA software solution, replacing the HMI that's in there. So that's a physical device that's sitting in the middle of the floor at the lake water plant. We want to get a new one of those, update all the PLCs. Currently the firmware on most of it is out of date. And then configuring backups with all those. And then configuring the modern SCADA software client. So it's referenced out if it's on premise, if it's cloud versions, getting that all set up in the communication working there. And set up password access to the HMI in building 10, because building 10 is not behind fences or could theoretically be accessed a little bit easier by public than the other buildings. Any questions on the lake water plant? Yes,
HMIs in general, just so we can answer it going forward. I believe in there, you have a request that the HMIs be able to handle all plant functions. Do you guys, are you planning on establishing like a minimum size for touchscreens moving forward, 10-inch, 12-inch, so they can be usable to run full plant operations from each HMI?
I'd say 7 inches would probably be the minimum. But if it needs to be bigger, then we can go bigger. I know that the plan was talked about where basically at any one of the HMIs, hopefully you can access the different functions of the plant. So that way you're not going out to say building 10 and then have to go back to building 30 to see something else. So I don't know if 7 is big enough for that. If we need to go with,
For full plant operation, I highly doubt it.
okay,
I would at least 10, if not 12.
10. Then we should probably go with 10-inch at those locations that need that. So I don't think that the lift stations are gonna need that. Lift stations could probably be 7-inch, but any of the plants. Cause I mean, unless Rod, if you have different input on that, but I don't think you're planning on viewing any of the other lift stations. At specific lift stations.
Yeah, you know, all the rest of the lift station, probably not.
It'd just be singular lift station you'd probably be viewing, but for plant operation. Specifically for wastewater and water treatment, they're gonna be able to want to view the other functions on a single screen.
Right.
So I'd go, say our minimum will be 10-inch then for those locations. So Sand Creek, this one's an older facility that has probably some of the oldest PLC software or the PLCs currently. We want to get those upgraded to a modern PLC. This is the SLC line. So basically get the PLCs replaced and configure communication back to the lake water treatment plant. I have pictures obviously listed up on the in our share file. I think everybody has access to those pictures and should be able to review those. If anybody thinks I'm going too fast, just let me know. I'm kind of skipping through this because I'm assuming most of you guys have read the RFP. Reservoirs and booster stations. We have Syringa, which is currently fully up to date for the most part in the physical aspect. But we do need to get the PLCs upgraded. Woodland, same thing, just get the PLCs upgraded, modern firmware. Woodland Booster. This one is probably the most confusing part in the RFP. We do currently have that one under contract to be replaced. As long as, depending on what gets in there, we're not really sure yet. It was emergency replacement, so I'm not sure if that's getting Allen Bradley or not. If it doesn't get Allen Bradley, we're gonna have to get that replaced with Allen Bradley products and get that communicating back to whatever SCADA solution is chosen. And that should already have communication back to Lake Water Treatment Plant as well. If you have any information on that, Rich, where that status is at or what's being put in?
It's underway as far as, I don't believe it's micro, I can't remember what it was.
Allen Bradley?
It's not Allen Bradley.
Okay. So most likely Woodland Booster Station is gonna have to have the PLC replaced again. We're just moving forward with getting it functional at the moment, and we'll plan on getting that dealt with when that comes up. So today with whoever's on site with us, they'll see physically what's there. But I'd plan on getting everything there replaced again. There should be some stuff that will be upgraded and up to date though. But we'll have to be a little bit fluid with that when that portion of the project comes up. Any questions online or in-house on that? Okay. All right, lift stations. We have about 19 lift stations across the city. Most of them consist of really 2 pumps, with the exception of South Water, which has 3 pumps. Silver Wings and Timberline, those are still kind of somewhat up in the air on what's gonna happen with those, depending on future projects, which will rely on Eric for some information on that, as well as Exxon and Beach. So we'll see if Eric has some input on those here. Eric?
Yeah, so we're in design, working on those right now, with the intention to bid later this spring and start construction this fall. And the biggest key right now is, of course, waiting on some pumps and a backup generator, and the long lead times on those, which really kind of impact the construction schedule. But they're both lift stations are past their useful life. They're being modernized. It'll be pretty typical lift station, of modern standards. Not really all that complicated. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So the PLC that's going into the new lift station will be part of that construction package?
It will be, and we're working with Keller Engineers on that lift station design, and once we get a team on board as a result of this, we'll be making those communications to ensure continuity.
So we'll just be doing the SCADA tie-in to it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
But was it Keller that also, Adam, you mentioned initially that the city had an engineer look at the PLCs at the treatment plant and suggest that maybe the 1400s were required. Was that also Keller or
No, that was not Keller.
JB or?
That was a different vendor that was doing the walkthrough with our first original RFP. Yeah.
Are the new lift stations that are going in at Exxon City Beach gonna be in the same configuration? Is Exxon still gonna be subgrade and City Beach can still have a brick building or a new building in the same place?
No, they'll both be vault systems set up without buildings.
Subgrade.
Yeah.
Did you have any updates on Silverwing or Timberline?
No, not at this time. Ultimately, we're considering offlining those, but there's a lot of moving parts in determining whether or not we're gonna do that. There's some mainline improvements that we would have to make. And we're working through that with our engineers to see what our options are and what's gonna be the most cost effective. So hopefully within the next, I'd say 4 months or so, we'll have a decision on that and be proceeding with either keeping those online or realigning some of our wastewater main line to offline them.
Is that because of the road reline?
Yes, all part of that.
So should those two be included in this RFP for pricing?
No, they should be for now. If we make the decision to offline those, we'll just remove it at a later date.
So separate later.
Yeah.
So yeah, just as it says in the RFP, Silver Wings Timberline, lowest priority currently, and maybe moved out of this project. So just include them as if they're gonna be included, but allow for the contingency if they are removed from that project. The big thing is we'd like to simplify all the lift stations across the city. Currently, there's not really any standard for the lift stations because they're installed by multiple different vendors and at different times. So we'd like to see like a standardized cabinet that's put together as a drop-in replacement. That way, if we have future issues, we can have a cabinet that we just go in and replace. Granted, there are, different physical elements and there's going to be differences, but overall, if we can have physically similar design across the board and similar products, that would be ideal. We want to get different products or features like amp draw so they can detect if there's a plug up in one of the different pumps, which currently they don't have that ability. They just have to show up and, they're either getting a call if there's an overflow or, it's typically not an enjoyable time when they figure it out. So they want to have some heads up. Yeah.
Do you want us to wait for questions at the end or?
No, it's all right. Just anytime you have a question.
With the standardized cabinet. So the system together at some site, they have a standard change, so pretty much every same size areas.
Mhm.
You guys have like some system. Different sizes.
That would be a question for Rod.
Are horsepower similar, standardized cabinets?
We have we have different horsepower pumps in all the lift stations, so,
Every different.
yeah, we don't have the same pump size or horsepower in most of the lift stations, they're all different, so.
Do you know offhand what your largest pump size is?
15,
That's South Boyer.
I believe it's Seasons. And South Boyer, and,
South.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're down to, 1 horsepower pumps at a couple lift stations, so. I think we have 3 of those now. Typically, we're 3 to 5 horsepower pumps. So. And we can provide a list on the pump stations and the pumps that are in there and the horsepower, what brand of pumps they are in.
That would be good, so we.
Okay. So,
Right.
yeah, I've got that list and we can provide that.
Yeah, you give it to me
I'll give it
if
to
I can
Cheryl
get it in the next
and-
day or so that we can get that posted right away.
Okay,
Because we'll just post it with
Right.
this conference stuff as well. Thank you.
All right. I feel like that's mostly covers lift stations unless anybody else has questions on lift stations. I don't think we need to go over all the individual lift stations with everybody. We included some different maps of the different locations that should give you a basic outline of what you're looking at for the different buildings of lake water, wastewater, as well as the different lift station locations. Then we go into some requirements and qualifications. So primarily what we're looking for here is trying to make sure that we're not getting anybody who really doesn't know what they're doing to bid on the project. We want to have people that know what they're doing. They're qualified, competent, and have had experience in doing projects like this. So we have the 5 years of sustained activity with similar type of projects. We want to ensure that different integrators have certain certifications and that they also have, journeyman electricians supervised by master electricians doing the work.
Also, if I can add on to that for the electrical contractor, because wasn't caught, but it's not in the RFP, so it'll be clarified, but to clarify it in this conference, they have to be Public Works licensed contract. So just to make sure that that's clear. And we will clarify that as well, but. Um. mm,
If you require work.
Right, just because of that. The dollar threshold, so we definitely need to have this as a public works licensed contractor, so. What we'll do is in the amendment, because we'll have to post an amendment since we're amending the RFP document. I'll include in there if a performance and payment bond is gonna be required. As well. I need to think on that a little bit. But my guess is, because of the dollar amount, my guess is gonna be yes. Yeah,
Forgive me, I just flat don't remember who supplies the SCADA software? Does that come from? Ownership is transferred to the city, or is the city buying it?
I think that depends on the integrator, if they are the one that, you know, is gonna be supporting us and we can build a support contract, we'd be open to that even. To a support contract for, like, if they were to, I mean, ultimately with all the software and licensing, we prefer to be holding licensing and software.
Yeah,
That way.
Who buys it first? Yeah. You just buy it. Give it flow into the process. And the key.
Hmm. I don't know that I have that answer right now.
What's behind my question is, I don't remember seeing anything in there, request to characterize, you know, long-term support costs as might be issued by the manufacturer. For their subscription fees,
Mhm.
you know. Is, where do those dollars service? To part of the CSI, the integrator's bid, or you guys just handle it your own?
Okay,
we would want it incorporated in the proposal
So do you want?
as like an option. I think that would be good to include as an option. For that ongoing support and what that cost would be. Right, because ultimately, we're gonna need it. So it should be part of the proposal.
We would like to see whoever's bidding on this project to be within 120 miles of the city. If you're not within 120 miles, we'd just like to see what your incident response plan is. Detailing how you're gonna deal with any incidences that may occur, or emergency outages. We're mostly looking for responders that are gonna be doing their own work. We're not looking for somebody who's just gonna bid on it and then, you know, subcontract all the work. Obviously, there's gonna be certain portions that do have to be subcontracted. So, but we're not looking to have a SCADA integrator, just hire another SCADA integrator to do their work. Responders. We're not looking for proprietary equipment. Anything that's, you know, only gonna be supported by, you know, a single integrator. We want to be able to have it where if the integrator, you know, goes out of business, if we can have another SCADA integrator come in and be able to generally support the product. And I think that about covers everything that I can think of, and then we go into general proposal formats. Do we want to go over the general proposal stuff at all?
We can go over the, we probably should just identify these,
Okay,
that they need to be making sure that they're including within the proposal, because it's being scored,
okay.
so.
So Proposals, shall be in the following requirements in the RFP, in under G, proposal format and content. You're gonna have your letter of interest, which can be one page, basically saying that you're interested in the project. Include staff qualifications, of key individuals that are gonna be in this project. Include your minimum qualifications, with related experience with this. Each individual's proposal and position and responsibility will be indicated in the proposal. Your management approach, and then related project experience. So when you're going through and filling that out, keep those in mind. Refer to the RFP for more detailed information on that, but those are pretty critical in the scoring of the RFP or the proposal.
Pretty much it. I mean, the rest are just. We have our projected schedule, which I already went over those. So we are planning, if all goes well, that the evaluation will take place the week of February 6th and maybe into the 13th, because we would like to get a selection made, and this would include any interviews as well. So, and then we would like to get it on the city council meeting for approval at the February 21st council meeting. So that's going to be a pretty quick turnaround from the evaluation and potential interviews, because the contract basically has to be drafted. So there is a sample agreement, and then we just incorporate the scope and everything from the proposal. So it's somewhat quick, but it has to be drafted and signed on the respondent's end in time for the meeting packet, which is that Friday, what is that Friday, the 17th? 16th. So it's a pretty quick, it's gonna be a quick process. If we miss the February 21st council meeting, then it would be on the first council meeting in March, the first Wednesday of March. So that is possible, but we do try really hard to make a quick turnaround deadline to get the project moving. So just so you're aware of that.
Perfect. Well, we can open up for questions. If anybody online has questions, raise your hand, or anybody in house. Yeah. Randy?
Asking a lot of questions. Sorry. Okay, fundamental question. All right, I understand scope, all that. But what I didn't gather and obligated to put in the RFQ, it's the fundamental aim or issue that's driving this. Make you want to change the status. It's not working right. Do you have version issues between computers, PLCs, and firmware? What's driving this?
Yeah, one of the primary things would be, obviously, we have a lot of old equipment. So we want to get it modernized, get it updated. And also we want to have the ability to be able to view stuff remotely. Currently, like a wastewater treatment plant, those guys have to drive in to be able to see what's going on. They can't remote in. They can't see anything other than if they're there physically. They do have some alarm dialers, but that doesn't really give them a clue on what's going on other than that there's an outage. They also want to have the ability to control things a little easier, as well as having everything going to a centralized server or to a cloud server. Those locations like water treatment, wastewater, and utilities or the pumps do need to be segregated out. So that, like, lake water isn't necessarily jumping into the wastewater systems and adjusting their stuff, because there's different teams that control those different plants, but they would all go into the same server or same cloud platform. And there may be the possibility of some cross viewing. So it's a possibility that, wastewater may want to see what's coming. If the pump was plugged and also they're going to expect a surge of stuff coming into wastewater, so they can at least have some visibility into if there's a pump that's all of a sudden kicking up a bunch but they wouldn't have control over any of the lift stations because that's going to be streets. So there may be some visibility things that want to be set across, but other than that, there's not going to be control between the different. There's going to be very specific wastewater collections and water treatment.
I will
So-
say that currently there's no SCADA at any of the lift stations at this time.
And we want that to change.
Yeah,
You want visibility, but no control.
correct. Like if you're at the wastewater treatment plant, I don't want wastewater plant to have control of any collections. Obviously, wastewater needs control of wastewater, but there may be some visibility just so that they're aware of something that might be coming. And then I do have an online question as well here. I'm gonna finish up real quick with this. So yeah, that's the main thing, upgrading to modern stuff, getting upgraded firmware, upgraded, our current SCADA software is super out of date. We need to get servers replaced, so our servers are running, old operating systems that are out of date as well, so getting servers upgraded, getting workstations upgraded, getting HMIs upgraded, and generally making it more functional and modern.
Very reasonable. Things work. Future is questionable. So,
Yeah.
and-
Yep.
And
Thank
before you take that question online, I will confirm, and it'll be confirmed in an addendum, that we will require a payment and performance bond. So that will be required.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, we have a question. Is there gonna be a transcript of this meeting? We're having a real hard time hearing, the questions to the panel.
This meeting it's being recorded. There's not gonna be an actual transcript. However, all the questions being asked will be in a Q&A document and posted on the solicitation page.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Just clarification on the lift stations, you guys were looking for current monitoring. Is there any other items that you want to see? Voltage monitoring, the monitor for single phasing, that kind of stuff on these remote items?
Yes. So
Yeah,
I
how
think,
would we keep the bids apples to apples?
Yeah.
And let me clarify with that this is not like a bid, it is a proposal, so pricing
It can
is.
vary a little bit.
It can vary because it's not gonna be based
On
on,
the game.
obviously, the lowest price is gonna get the maximum number of the pricing points. But the award isn't gonna, or the contract won't be awarded based on price alone, just to make sure that that's clear.
yeah, so with that, I didn't specify everything. But we do want to have HMI screen, PLC, UPS, amp draw, submersible or radar transducers, heaters, redundant flow controls. Those are the main things that we listed in here. Unless you have anything that you feel like needs to be added to that.
Those are the main things. And then we'll.
And I do believe from the last meeting, there was an aisle list that was provided. What kind of percentage of future growth do you guys want included?
On the-
20%?
Like on the PLC or on the lift stations or,
Of the PLCs, yeah.
I think the lift stations aren't really gonna change that much, are they? They're pretty much, once they're set, they're gonna be what they are.
Okay.
So I wouldn't plan on,
What about
Too much.
water and wastewater?
water is already set, so there's no PLCs really being replaced at water. The PLCs at the wastewater treatment plant, I don't think that there's any real plan for mass amount of change other than modernizing the actual building. Because currently the actual incoming and outgoing, you guys are handling that just fine, right?
Yeah,
don't know what's coming with the upgrade either, so.
Yeah, it's hard for us to know what's in the future with that. I would say, sticking with the current is gonna be a safe bet. We could plan for some cushion at wastewater just because we don't know what's coming. So that wouldn't be a bad plan, leaving some room for input outputs. All right, any other questions? Yeah, Randy?
Okay, sorry, difficult, sensitive one, but here we go. Obviously, the city has a nice installed base of products from Rockwell Automation, great company, fine products. There are companies here in town, we have brick and mortar in town, and are members of the community, pay their taxes. They also represent world-class automation products.
Mhm.
Installed 40,000 water facilities worldwide. What's the venue for them to get a voice, to get to present their value proposition? Because we've tried so far, been just like be difficult, but would like to be able to talk to the city in which we live and say, hey, can we at least tell you about our products?
Now, what are we specifically
Yeah.
talking about on that?
PLCs.
PLCs, okay.
Software, computers,
So instead of like Allen Bradley with one with a different product,
yeah.
Be included in the proposal, because we're not.
yeah, I know we specified, and I know we specified Allen Bradley specifically in here. And that's primarily because of Allen Bradley has a proven track record of reliability.
So the other guy.
So that was what we primarily were going for. I don't know, I mean, that's also what we have primarily at the Lake Water plant, and we're trying to just standardize. And across the board have a similar product that's easily accessible, everybody can get a hold of, and it's, well known.
Which is fully understandable, like I say, I get it, they're in town here, wouldn't it be nice for the automation spend dollars to stay in town instead of going out of town?
Mhm.
They ought to be able to have a voice and
Yeah.
a presentation here for us. Say, look, here are the advantages of our products, the other guys, here's how much less you spend. Here's how they work better. Who are they? Schneider Electric. And the company's still like. They fix. Just like Brad, but transaction business is represented here. The distributor is here in town, got the distributor here in town.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any input on that. Most of the input I got when I was going through this from the prior consultant that we had, as well as the input that I was able to receive, was sticking with Allen Bradley. Just for keeping with what we already currently have. And, simplifying the aspect that everything is, the same across the board, same brand. But I don't know that, would you guys be opposed to alternatives or?
The wastewater treatment plant, I heard you say 1100s and 1400s are obsolete, they should be replaced. So you're conceivably replacing every PLC in the plant there, or nearly every piece. And the software that Schneider uses will work with other guys' PLCs, 240 drivers to talk to other brands of stuff.
Yeah,
And it's good stuff.
I have some questions here online as well. Dean?
Actually, this is Jason. I just wanted to make sure that we do understand that the reason for the Allen Bradley PLCs would be that you don't have to rewrite all of that code. So when a PLC is replaced and we put in a modern PLC, that code doesn't necessarily have to be rewritten. Switching to a different manufacturer, you rewrite that code. So that's dollars that would be spent in engineering dollars to have that code rewritten. The other thing is we do want to make sure that you understand that the Micrologix 1400 is not discontinued. And just to make sure that we understand that there are some controllers that are discontinued, and we want to work with you guys to make sure that we step you in the right direction for the ease of engineering.
Okay, perfect. And there was another hand raised, but I think it was. He put his hand down. Did you still have a question as well?
No, we don't.
Okay,
The Rockwell PLC logic can be diverted easily to the Schneider platform. It's kind of overstated difficulty there.
okay. Yeah, we can talk about it and, if you want to propose that question, through the questions and answers, then we'll get an actual answer for that.
Yeah,
Current,
we'll just state that answer in the Q&A document.
yeah,
Question will be, what's the venue? How we do
okay.
it? We present.
Any other questions online?
By the way, appreciate your patience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here for. Any other questions in house? All right. Well, we'll wrap this up and we'll get on to our site visit then.
Thank you very much for attending, all the attendees on Zoom. And I should have the Q&A document and any, the addendum number 1 posted, hopefully no later than Thursday, but I'm hoping to have it done tomorrow. As well as the recording to this conference. And thank you very much for attending. We appreciate your interest.
Perfect. Thank you.